Hello and welcome. My name is Lucie Andersen-Wood and I'm a psychotherapist and a clinical hypnotherapist. I'm also a teacher of two forms of dance. One is called yoga dance, Let Your Yoga Dance, and the second form is called journey dance. And today I would like to talk about a topic that is really close to my heart, something that I feel is quite foundational within my psychotherapy practice and within my own personal development practice as well. And that is the idea or the concept of the inner child. Carl Jung was the first person to talk about the existence or the possibility of an inner child. And the way that he came up with this concept was he examined his own thinking process, his own actions, and his relationships. And eventually what he discovered was that all of the decisions that he was making in his life were actually the decisions of a child, that he was operating as a child within his own life. And he suggested that the inner child, this part of us that is still childlike, influences everything about our adult life, everything we do, all the decisions we make, the relationships that we're attracted to, and how those relationships play out, what we expect from those relationships, and how those relationships deteriorate or end. The inner child part of ourselves holds all of the memories and emotions that we experienced when we were a child, and that means all the positive things that we experienced and felt. But also our inner child will have absorbed all of the negative or harmful actions, words and feelings that we experienced when we were little. The interesting thing about the concept of the inner child is that most adults have no idea that they have an inner child within them. And most people will go through their whole lives completely unaware of this part of themselves, just thinking that things that go wrong in their lives or things that go right in their lives are just down to their own faults or strengths. And that's a real shame, because it's quite possible to address the difficulties of adult life and adult relationships, feelings that we all have, through developing an awareness and understanding of our own inner child. So what are some of the signs that you have a healthy inner child? When you feel energized, inspired, when you feel loved, able to love others, feel peaceful and open, when you have a sense of being full of innocence, full of joy, excited about life, full of curiosity and full of awe at nature, all of those qualities are signs that you have an inner child that's very healthy. So what are the signs that you have a child that is wounded? Well, this is far more common, sadly. And you may be thinking, well, I didn't have a really bad childhood. I had a good childhood overall. My parents were great. And if this is you, if this is the case for you, then that's fantastic. But the kinds of things that can cause an inner child to be wounded can be very subtle and can actually be things that looked at through an adult's eyes are quite minor. So it could be things like a teacher talking to you in an unkind way. There could be misunderstandings from early friendships. It could be neighbours, relatives, siblings who have hurt you with their words or deeds. And it may be that these events you think that you've forgotten about, but the child is still holding on to some of these events, and it's affecting your adult life in subtle ways. So some of the more obvious things that can point to you having an inner child are things like boundaries. If you have difficulty with creating boundaries with other people, and if you're always tending to put other people's needs before your own, or finding it really difficult to say no when you want to say no, then this could be a sign that you have a wounded inner child. A very common sign of having a wounded child is having difficulty expressing your emotions. So it could be that you prevent yourself from crying or from feeling angry because you associate shame or guilt with those very common emotions. Or it could be that you cry very easily and really don't want to be crying quite as easily as you do. Or it could be that you find it very difficult to control your own anger and express it perhaps in inappropriate ways at inappropriate times. Or it could be that you're somebody who avoids conflict, and if somebody wants to discuss a difficulty that they have within your relationship, it may be that you try to avoid that, or you refuse to discuss an issue, or you just completely shut down, walk away. Another emotional style can be having an addiction. Any kind of addiction can be a sign that you have a wounded child. So drugs, alcohol, gambling, cigarettes, food, sex addiction, and any sort of addiction, any behaviour where you're not really in control of yourself. You're giving yourself a rush of those feel-good hormones when you indulge in your addiction. And the addiction can allow you to avoid feeling your feelings. You're stuffing down your feelings when you're taking drugs or drinking alcohol or overeating, for example. Excessive fear or anxiety can be a sign of a wounded child. So wanting to avoid being around people, or feeling, if you are with other people, feeling extreme anxiety, wanting to get away, wanting to get back home and to be on your own or with people who you're more familiar with. Another style of interaction that can be an indication of a wounded child is where you try to create conflict, and you may really go out of your way to antagonize people, get into arguments with people, physical or just verbal arguments. Having a tendency towards being obsessive or needy can be a sign of having an unresolved, wounded child. So if you find yourself trying to get attention and approval from people and being what you might call a people pleaser, this could be a sign. And one of the things that I suffer from still is obsessively hoarding things. So not wanting to let go of possessions, things that you really don't need anymore, it's very easy to persuade yourself that, oh yes, no, I do need that. And really it's just a way of protecting your inner child, protecting them with items that make them feel loved and secure. Some wounded children feel obsessed with competing and being the best, feeling that they have to overachieve and be perfect in lots of different spheres of their life. And related to this, probably the most common sign of a wounded child is having low self-esteem, feeling that you are just not good enough, that there's something fundamentally wrong with you, that you're different from everybody else, that your problems are more severe and you're more weird or incurable than anybody else. And this can lead into being very critical of your body, so developing body image difficulties and eating disorders as well. There are lots of other signs that somebody has a wounded inner child, but these are the main or the most common sort of areas that you might recognize in yourself or other people around you. So the next issue to address is if you recognize that you may have a wounded child, and the vast majority of us do to some extent or another, then the question arises, what, if anything, can you do about this? And the good news is that there are many different things that you can do about this, that even though the trauma or the pain happened in the past, your adult self has got the ability to heal your child self. And so I'll just mention a few different ways of doing this, but before I do, I should give a health warning for this, quite a serious warning, that there are some people who have experienced extreme abuse in childhood. It could be physical, could be verbal, could be sexual, or it could be a combination of all of these. And in these situations, it's very advisable, in fact, I'd say it's necessary, to work through your inner child issues with a qualified therapist in person, ideally, or during the times of the pandemic. It may be possible, if you work with a therapist, that they could guide you through this work online. But the kinds of activities that I'm going to suggest now in this particular session are not suitable for those people who have complex traumas. So there isn't really a one-size-fits-all approach to this, because we're all individuals and different people respond better to different methods. So some people really find it beneficial to get a journal and to try to remember those things from their past, from their childhood, that were positive, and those things that were painful. And writing them down can help to come to terms with them, to recognize them, and to really examine what sort of emotions you are holding when you think about these things. Just as an aside, I should warn you that if you hear any strange noises, my dog has come in to join me, and so if you hear any barking or whining, it's not me, it's my dog. You may find it helpful to talk through some of your childhood memories, experiences, to try to get clarity for yourself, and to think about those sorts of experiences that perhaps at the time you thought were trivial, but perhaps now you might think that, might realize that actually they could potentially have caused you quite a lot of harm. So things like parents ignoring you or rejecting you, or people calling you names, feeling that you weren't as important as your other siblings, teachers perhaps telling you that you were stupid, and even very trivial things, if they're repeated over a long period of time, they can accumulatively become really like a trauma. So talking about those things with a sympathetic friend, and also, or a sibling if you have a close relationship, although you need to be careful because sometimes siblings have vastly different recollection of what family life was like, even though you shared the same parents. Every sibling within a family has their own unique take on the experience. And then finally, one of the techniques that I find personally and professionally to be the most valuable is to visualize yourself with your inner child, and to have a dialogue with them in your mind's eye. If you have some experience of therapy or personal development, then this may be something that you can do, provided you don't have a complex trauma. It could be something that you could do by yourself, guide yourself through the process. But it's generally easier to have another person guide you, someone who's experienced in doing this, while you focus your energy and your attention on the process of finding your inner child and talking with them. And the end goal of doing this process, whichever one of those processes that I've mentioned you find most comfortable, the end result is that you will have started to help your child to develop a sense of appropriate discipline, setting boundaries and limits and structure, but also, and more importantly, you will have guided them in terms of feeling nurtured, supported, and accepted, loved, in fact, loved very, very deeply. And some people are a little bit reluctant to do this kind of work because they don't want to blame their parents. They feel some guilt at this, and particularly if your parents were pretty nice and you're not really aware of any deep traumas. But within this process, there's no blame. All parents are, and all humans are, imperfect. So there's probably no person on earth who's been the absolute perfect parent. It's just not possible, not humanly possible. So when we're looking back at our past and the role of our parents, it's not with critical eyes in particular, and it's not with a view to blaming them. It's more that we want to gain an understanding for our own sake. And there may be some parents have done things that may be unforgivable, that people may find completely unforgivable. So it still can be very valuable to look at those things, and it gives you more insight into your own psyche, and with that awareness can follow forgiveness for yourself and understanding. And even though in some situations you may not be able to forgive people who have done things that were harmful to you, it's quite important that you're able to accept the past and know that the past is the past, and that right now you're living in the present, which is different from the past. And sometimes people feel that they absolutely can't forgive someone, and that's fine. It's not necessary to forgive somebody, but it is really helpful if you can forgive the situation. That can allow you to move forward and to heal whatever it is that has caused you pain. But without forgiveness of some kind, the event, the trauma, can still have a hold over you. So forgiving the situation or forgiving the event is merely a way of releasing you from the hold that that event has had over you since childhood. And then beyond accepting or forgiving, or both, what's happened in your past, it's really important that you accept parental responsibility for your inner child. So this child, this pure, beautiful, innocent inner child that's been living within you for many years, needs for you to adopt him or her and to become a really amazing, loving parent to them. And that's really where the exciting work begins. So you need to figure out ways that you are going to be the very best parent that you could ever hope to have for your newly discovered or rediscovered inner child. And that will mean having a dialogue with your inner child, and ideally a dialogue that goes on all day long, intermittently, not every moment of every day. Obviously we have to get on with our lives, but very regularly. So first thing in the morning is a fantastic time to check in with your inner child, and I tend to put my hand to my heart, because symbolically my inner child lives inside my heart. And then I will address my inner child and I will say, "Little Lucie, what have you to tell me now that I need to hear?" And I give my inner child a voice. So you can say it in different words or ask a completely different question, but you need to give your child a voice so that you can hear them and you can incorporate their wishes and their passions, their fears into your plan for the day. And what I tend to do is, at different points throughout the day, I may be posed with some choices or dilemmas, and I'll allow the adult Lucie to consider the choices, but I'll also, maybe putting my hand on my heart again, I'll also ask my inner child, what feels right to you? What would you like to do in this situation? Particularly where it's going out of your comfort zone, or it's a choice that could have many different outcomes, something that you feel unsure of. It's always good to check with your inner child. And then if you accomplish something, perhaps checking something off your to-do list or something like that, or doing the dishes, which is something that I really hate because my dishwasher's broken at the moment. when you've accomplished something really quite good, then saying to yourself, well done, praising yourself for having accomplished something that perhaps was a little bit unpleasant or required a little bit of self-discipline to do, is a really good idea. And if ever I'm afraid of doing something, if I'm really not looking forward to something or I'm worried about the outcome, I'll say to myself before, talk to my inner child and say, do you know, you can handle absolutely anything. Just think of all those things you've done before. There's nothing to fear at this moment. And you can give yourself affirmations that feel particularly good for you. And tell your inner child, we're doing this together and I am not going to let you down. Or words that feel right for you. And then your child will feel that you're in this together, and the child part of you can relax, calm down, and do the thing that you were frightened of doing. So now what I'd like to do is just lead you through a brief imagery session, a visualization. And this is a little bit like hypnotherapy, but it's not going quite so deep, because in this particular forum where I don't know the people who are listening to this, it's not really appropriate to do a very deep session. For that, you need to go and work one-on-one with a therapist, ideally. But this will just be a very brief session to allow you to meet your inner child and do the level of work that seems right for you at this time. So for this imagery visualization, what I'd like for you to do is to find a place where you can lie down or sit down if you don't have any comfortable place to lie down right now. Just allow yourself to sink into your sofa or mat, wherever you are, and let yourself become as relaxed as you choose to be. Just allow your mind to release the busyness that's going on inside of it right now. Not holding on to any thought in particular, but just allowing the thoughts to come into your mind and go out again, to be replaced by the next thought and the next thought. And slowing down, your thought will be replaced yet again by the next thought that comes in to your mind. And without judgment, just watch those thoughts like a scientific observer, someone who's objective, noticing those thoughts, judgment. And then I'd like to invite you to notice your breath. Notice the temperature of the air as it's coming in through your nose. And then notice how it lifts your lungs, your rib cage. And notice how when you breathe out again, that your rib cage lowers. And perhaps you'll hear the sound of the air released. And allow your breath and calming for you. Breathe at your own pace. And with every breath, your whole body starts to feel more and more relaxed, calmer, more peaceful. And then I'd like to invite you, using your imagination, using your mind's eye, to picture a beautiful place where you feel completely, utterly safe, where you feel so secure, you feel so comfortable. This is a place where you and only you go. Nobody else is allowed in this place. And this place can be a fantasy place in your imagination, or it could be a real place in your home or on a holiday. It could be a place that you've seen in a movie or a magazine. It could be a beach, a forest, a cloud. Use your imagination to find that place which is most secure and safe for you. And in this place, have a look around and see what's there. What colours can you see? What shapes can you see? What objects can you see? And listen, what sounds can you hear in this safe place? Is there a sound of the ocean or leaves rustling in the trees? What sounds can you hear? What temperature is it? I know that it's comfortable because you feel safe and comfortable here, but is it warmer or is it cooler? Or perhaps there's a breeze. Now sit down in this place and allow yourself to feel comfortable. Get into whichever position in your mind's eye feels most comfortable for you. And in this beautiful place, I'd like for you to notice that just in front of you there is a chair, a small chair, and in a moment you can gently invite your beautiful inner child to sit on the chair and be with you for a while. As you look at the chair, I don't know what age your child is. They could be very young. They could be 6, 7, could be 12, 13, 14, could be 18 or older. Most inner children are younger, from the age of 2 or 3 to the age of 10. But I don't know today what age your inner child is, but you can roughly tell from what they look like if they've chosen to come and be with you, spend some time with you. And as they sit there, you may want to ask them if there's anything they'd like to tell you. And they may choose to come over to sit with you or to cuddle with you, or they may not feel like doing that. They can choose when and if they come to spend time with you. And just listen to the answer they give you. What is it they would like to tell you? What is it they would like to share with you right now? They may be angry with you, disappointed in you. They may be longing to be with you. They may be confused. And they can tell you they have access to a deep innermost thoughts. And just listen with an open heart. Listen to what they have to say to you. Listen deeply and listen wisely. It may be that you feel ready to give them a promise, to let them know of your intentions in your new relationship with them. And if that's the case, then perhaps right now you may want to tell them how you are going to be in your relationship with them moving forward. Maybe you need to hug them, stroke their hair, squeeze their hand gently, look in their eyes. You may need to tell them how beautiful they are. Just look at their face, look at the innocence and beauty in their eyes. Just tell them what you see. You could tell them the qualities that you know are there. Qualities that perhaps other people don't always notice. Let them know that you see them. They are seen. They are important to you. Just let them know that, and perhaps reassure them that now you have met or met again, that you are going to behave as a really responsible and loving parent towards them. That you would like nothing more than to be the very best parent to this beautiful child that you can possibly be. Go ahead and make promises if you feel you'd like to. Just carry on telling them all of the different ways in which they're amazing. Just reassure them. Let them know that they haven't done anything wrong, that they were a child and they never deserved any of the negative experiences that they may have had. And that you know that even those things that seem trivial may have hurt them quite deeply, and that you're here to take care of them and make sure that you help them to experience their emotions in a healthy way, as well as to make sure that they have lots of fun, lots of amazing experiences. You may want to ask them what their passion is, what they would love to get up to in this world, where they might like to go, what sort of people they want to spend their time with. Let them know that you will be there for them in difficult times as well as the easy times. And just look at your child and See how they're becoming more and more contented in your presence. See a bond developing between the two of you, feeling contented and connected, reconciled with your inner child, knowing that you're on your journey, on the beginning of your journey, to start healing those wounds, smaller and larger wounds, knowing that every day that your bond with your inner child will grow and deepen, and that you will find your adult self is going to become more and more confident, contented, and feeling whole, feeling joyful, knowing that you can bring your passion and your love into your relationships with your family and friends, and into your community and the world. And now you notice that you are still in your safe place, where you feel calm and relaxed, where you know that you are secure and safe. And in a moment you're going to start coming back to the place where you began your journey. You start to notice the sensation in your fingers as you move them. And you notice the sensation in your toes as you move your toes. And now you notice your breath, breathing your body in and out. You notice the feeling of the floor or the sofa or the mat underneath your body, supporting you. And now whenever you're ready, on a breath that feels right to you, you're able to breathe your eyes open. And whatever you have planned for the rest of the day or the evening, you'll be able to continue exactly as you choose. Feeling alert and awake if it's the daytime, and feeling ready to go to sleep if that's what you choose to do. So I'd just like to read out a quote that I think is particularly nice for thinking about your inner child. It's from Paulo Coelho, who's you're probably familiar with. Hold the hand of the child that lives in your soul. For this child, nothing is impossible. I like the focus on nothing being impossible. So I think sometimes when we focus on the wounded child, inevitably there's a focus on the negative, but really healing those wounds can relieve such a burden that it does make everything possible. And I think one of the things that's really useful to remember when doing this work is that we're all perfectly imperfect and imperfectly perfect. So accepting our challenges, our foibles, those things that we don't particularly like about ourselves, just accepting them as just part of the package, and even loving those parts of ourselves that we've perhaps felt ashamed of in the past, that can be so empowering for ourselves, knowing that we're all human. We're not supposed to be perfect, and in some ways perfect might even be boring, so just accept your weirdness, accept your funkiness, accept your uniqueness, really, and Focus on what is your passion and how can you enjoy life to its fullest. How can you share your gifts with others to the fullest extent possible? That's the benefit of starting to heal your wounded child. If you'd like to do more inner child work, then there are many resources that you can find online. There are YouTube videos, visualizations, as well as online therapists. And when we're not in the middle of a pandemic, then therapists, in-person therapists, are a really valuable resource for many people. If you have any questions, or if you'd like to try online therapy or join in one of my retreats, then do contact me on my email, which is Lucie, LUCIEAW, @yahoo.co.uk.